Commander Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he checked the readings on his computer screen. The Mars Research Station New Horizon was running smoothly, just like it had for the past 6 months. Red dust covered everything outside. The dome and the thin atmosphere made every breath feel precious. Jake had been leading this team of 40 scientists and engineers since Earth sent them to build humanity's first permanent home on Mars. "Commander, we're getting strange readings from the deep space sensors," called out Dr. Beth Collins from her station near the communication center. Her voice carried worry that made Jake look up from his work. Jake walked over to her station and looked at the screen. The numbers made no sense. "What am I looking at, Beth?" "Something big is coming toward Earth, really big. The sensors are picking up massive objects moving faster than anything we've ever seen." Beth's fingers moved quickly across her keyboard as she tried to get clearer readings. Back on Earth, Captain Lisa Hayes stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship Unity. She was 35 years old and had spent half her life preparing for this moment, though she never thought it would actually come. The bridge crew worked quietly around her, their faces showing the same mix of fear and excitement that she felt. "Captain, we have confirmation from Mars Station," reported Lieutenant Andy Clark. "Multiple objects approaching Earth orbit. Estimated arrival time is 4 hours." Lisa took a deep breath. First contact with alien life had always been a possibility, but most people thought it would happen slowly, with radio signals or small probes. This was different. This was big ships coming straight to Earth. "Send a message to all Earth defense ships. Tell them to take positions around Earth but do not fire unless fired upon, and get me a direct line to President Carter." Dr. Ryan Cooper ran through the halls of the Geneva Science Center, his lab coat flying behind him. As Earth's top expert on what alien life might look like, he had spent years preparing for this day. But all his preparation felt useless now that it was actually happening. "Dr. Cooper, the telescopes are getting clear images now," his assistant Jenny Walsh called out as he entered the lab. She pointed to the main screen where the images appeared. Ryan stopped and stared. The alien ships were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. They looked like giant crystals, clear and sharp, catching the light from the sun. Each ship was at least 5 miles long, and there were dozens of them arranged in perfect formation. "They're not like anything we imagined," Ryan said quietly. "Look at the way they move together. It's like they're dancing." President Helen Carter sat at the head of the emergency council table in the White House Situation Room. Around her sat the most important people in the world, military leaders, scientists, and government officials from every major nation. The room buzzed with worried voices speaking in different languages. "Ladies and gentlemen, please," Helen said, raising her hand for silence. "We need to stay calm and think clearly. What do we know so far?" Admiral Frank Miller, the head of Earth's military forces, stood up. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. "Madam President, we have 47 alien ships in formation above Earth. They're not responding to our radio signals. Our best guess is that each ship could destroy a city if they wanted to." Helen felt cold fear in her stomach, but she kept her voice steady. "What are our options?" "We have 600 ships ready to fight, but honestly, we're probably outgunned. These alien ships use technology we don't understand. They appeared out of nowhere, faster than light travel that we can't even dream of." Back on Mars, Jake Morrison watched the live feed from Earth. The alien ships hung in space like deadly jewels, beautiful and threatening. His team gathered around him, all 40 people who had volunteered to help build humanity's future on Mars. Now they might be watching humanity's end. "Commander, we're getting a signal," Beth said suddenly. "It's coming from the alien ships." Jake felt his heart beat faster. "Put it through the main speakers." A voice filled the room. It sounded human, but too perfect, like a computer trying to sound alive. "People of Earth, we are the Zephyrians. We have watched your species for 1 solar cycle. You have proven yourselves to be violent and unpredictable. This cannot continue." The voice paused, and Jake could hear his own breathing in the silence. "We offer you a choice. Surrender your world to our guidance, and you will be allowed to live under our protection. Refuse and your species will be removed from this galaxy. You have 72 hours to decide. Captain Hayes gripped the arms of her chair as the message ended. Around her, the bridge crew looked scared and angry. She had trained for battle, but this felt different. This felt like the end of everything. "Captain," Lieutenant Clark said, "we're getting reports from all over Earth. People are panicking. The stock markets have crashed. Some governments are already talking about surrender." Lisa thought about her daughter back on Earth, probably scared and confused like everyone else. She thought about all the people who trusted her to protect them. Send a message to all Earth defense ships. Tell them we do not surrender. Tell them we fight. Dr. Cooper stared at the readings his computers were showing him. The alien ships were scanning Earth with technology that made human science look like stone tools, but something about their behavior puzzled him. "Jenny, look at this," he said, pointing to the screen. "See how they're positioned? They're not trying to hide. They want us to see them and be afraid." "Maybe fear is their weapon," Jenny suggested. "Maybe, but look at their scanning patterns. They're being very careful not to damage anything. These aren't conquerors who want to destroy everything. They want to keep Earth intact." President Carter spoke on television to the world. Billions of people watched as she stood at the podium, trying to look strong when everyone felt weak. "My fellow humans, we face a test that no generation has faced before. We are not alone in the universe and we are not welcome, but we are human. We have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. We have climbed out of caves and reached for the stars. We will not bow down to anyone, even if they come from the stars themselves." The alien ships began to move. 3 of them glided down toward Earth's atmosphere, their crystal surfaces glowing brighter as they approached. When they reached the planet's military satellites, something incredible happened. The satellites simply stopped working. No explosions, no visible weapons, just sudden death of all electronics. The alien ships had weapons that could turn off human technology like flipping a switch. Admiral Miller watched the reports coming in from around the world. "They're showing us what they can do. 3 ships just disabled our entire satellite network without even trying hard." On Mars, Jake Morrison looked up at the red sky and made a decision that would change everything. "Beth, send a message to Earth. Tell them we're not coming home. If humanity falls, Mars will remember what we were. And if humanity fights, Mars will fight beside them." Dr. Cooper worked through the night, trying to understand the alien technology. The scanning data showed something important. The alien ships were powerful, but they followed rules. They were careful, methodical, and precise. They acted like a machine, not like individual beings making choices. "Jenny, I think I understand something," he said as dawn broke over Geneva. "These aliens aren't like us. They don't think like us. They're too organized, too perfect. That might be their weakness." As the 72-hour deadline approached, humanity prepared for its greatest test. In space stations around Earth, soldiers checked their weapons knowing they might not work against alien technology. In underground bunkers, families held each other close. In government buildings, leaders made plans they hoped they would never need to use. The alien ships waited in perfect formation, patient and deadly. They had given humanity a simple choice: surrender or die. They had no idea that humans had a third option that no other species had ever chosen. They were about to learn that humans never surrender, and they never die quietly. The 72 hours had passed, and humanity's answer was clear. President Helen Carter stood before the world's cameras one last time before the fighting began. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly as she gripped the podium. "We choose to fight," she said simply. "We choose freedom over safety, hope over fear. Whatever happens next, we face it as free people." The alien ships moved the moment her speech ended. They descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars, their crystal surfaces glowing brighter as they approached major cities. The first attack came at dawn in Tokyo, where a single alien ship hovered over the city center and fired a beam of pure energy that carved through buildings like a knife through paper. But something strange happened. The beam was precise, surgical. It destroyed military targets and government buildings but left hospitals and schools untouched. The aliens were not trying to kill everyone. They were trying to break human will without destroying everything they wanted to rule. Dr. Ryan Cooper watched the attack reports from his lab in Geneva. His team had worked for 3 days straight, trying to understand the alien technology. Now, as he saw the careful destruction in Tokyo, pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. "Jenny, look at this," he said, pointing to the energy readings on his screen. The alien weapons work by manipulating quantum fields. They're basically changing the rules of physics in small areas to make matter fall apart. Jenny Walsh looked over his shoulder at the complex equations. "Can we stop it?" "Maybe. Every quantum field has a frequency. If we can find the right counter frequency, we might be able to disrupt their weapons." Ryan's fingers flew across his keyboard as he began calculations that could save humanity. Meanwhile, engineer Maya Rodriguez worked in the deep tunnels beneath the Colorado mountains. The underground facility was humanity's most secret military research center, where they developed weapons too dangerous for the surface world. Maya had been working on quantum field manipulation for years, never knowing it would be the key to humanity's survival. "Dr. Anderson, I think I've got something," she called out to physicist Dr. Paul Anderson, who was reviewing her work. "If Dr. Cooper is right about the alien weapon frequency, we can build a device that broadcasts the opposite frequency." Paul looked at her designs and felt hope for the first time in days. "How long would it take to build?" "Give me 6 hours and every engineer in this facility." Colonel Steve Parker stood in the briefing room aboard the stealth ship Defiance. His mission was simple and almost certainly suicidal: get close enough to an alien ship to test the new frequency weapon. The Defiance was humanity's most advanced ship, designed to be invisible to radar and heat sensors. But would it be invisible to alien technology? "Remember, we need to get within 1 mile of their ship," Colonel Parker told his crew of 12 volunteers. "We fire the frequency disruptor, see if it works, and get out. If it doesn't work, we probably won't get a second chance." Lieutenant Tom Bradley, the ship's pilot, checked his instruments one final time. "Colonel, the ship is ready. All systems show green. Then let's go show these aliens what humans can do." The Defiance launched from its hidden base in the Pacific Ocean and climbed toward space. Below them, the war was spreading. Alien ships attacked military bases in Russia, missile silos in America, and naval ports in Europe. But human forces were fighting back with everything they had. In Chicago, Sergeant Tom Bradley led a squad of soldiers through the ruined streets. The same name as the pilot, but this Tom Bradley was on the ground, fighting house to house against alien ground forces. The aliens had sent down small robots that looked like metal spiders, each one armed with the same reality-changing weapons as their ships. "They're in the apartment building," Sergeant Bradley whispered into his radio. 10 of them, maybe 12. They're not acting like soldiers, though. They're acting like computers. That was the key insight. The alien robots moved in perfect patterns, following programmed instructions. When Sergeant Bradley's squad used guerrilla tactics, hiding in unexpected places and attacking from directions the robots didn't expect, the aliens became confused. "They can't adapt," Bradley realized. "They're smart, but they're not creative. They follow the plan, but when the plan doesn't work, they don't know what to do." Captain Amy Foster coordinated the resistance from a hidden command center in the Rocky Mountains. Reports came in from all over the world: London, Beijing, Mumbai, Sao Paulo. Everywhere, the same pattern emerged. The aliens were powerful and precise, but they were also predictable. "Send this message to all resistance cells," Captain Foster ordered. "Use chaos tactics, do the unexpected. The aliens think like machines, so we need to think like humans." Dr. Cooper's breakthrough came at the worst possible time. Tokyo was burning, Berlin was under attack, and New York was surrounded by alien ships. But his equations finally worked. He had found the frequency that could disrupt alien weapons. "Jenny, get me a direct line to Maya Rodriguez in Colorado. Tell her I'm sending the frequency data now." In the underground facility, Maya and her team worked like their lives depended on it, because they did. The frequency disruptor was a small device, about the size of a briefcase, but it contained technology that pushed human science to its limits. "It's ready," Maya announced. "One prototype untested, probably unstable, but it should work." Colonel Parker received the device just as the Defiance reached the edge of space. Below them, Earth looked like a planet at war. Fires burned in dozens of cities, alien ships moved like predators through the clouds, and human military forces fought desperate battles against impossible odds. "There," Lieutenant Bradley pointed to a lone alien ship hovering over San Francisco. "That one's isolated. If we're going to test this thing, that's our target." The Defiance moved silently through space, its stealth systems hiding it from human sensors. But would they hide it from alien technology? The crew held their breath as they approached the crystal ship, its surface gleaming like a deadly jewel. "1 mile and closing," Bradley reported. "No sign they've detected us." Colonel Parker activated the frequency disruptor. The small device hummed with power, broadcasting its counter-frequency toward the alien ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alien ship's weapons flickered and died. "It worked," Parker whispered. The frequency disruptor actually worked, but their victory was short-lived. The alien ship's sensors finally detected the Defiance, and the crystal vessel turned toward them with predatory grace. Its weapons came back online, and energy beams reached out like deadly fingers. "Evasive maneuvers," Parker ordered. "Get us out of here." The Defiance twisted and turned through space, its human pilot using every trick he knew to stay alive. The alien ship followed, its weapons firing in perfect patterns that would have destroyed any predictable target. But Lieutenant Bradley didn't fly in patterns. He flew with human instinct, making split-second decisions that no computer could predict. They escaped barely, but they had proof that the frequency disruptor worked. The data flowed to resistance cells around the world, and human engineers began building more disruptors as fast as they could. The war was changing. In the ruins of Chicago, Sergeant Bradley's squad used their new frequency disruptor to destroy a group of alien robots. In London, resistance fighters disabled an alien patrol ship. In Moscow, human soldiers walked through alien energy barriers that no longer worked, but the aliens were learning too. Their ships began using different frequencies, adapting their weapons to counter the human disruption technology. The war became a race between human creativity and alien adaptation. Dr. Cooper worked day and night to stay ahead of the alien countermeasures. "They're changing their frequencies every few hours," he told Jenny. "We need to find a way to disrupt all their frequencies at once. Is that even possible?" "I don't know, but we're humans. We'll find a way." The tide of war began to turn as more frequency disruptors reached the battlefield. Human soldiers who had been hiding in bunkers emerged to fight. Pilots who had been shot down got back in the air. Cities that had been under alien control began to fight back. The aliens, for the first time since their arrival, seemed confused. Their perfect plans were failing against human chaos. Their superior technology was being countered by human ingenuity. They had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had never faced anything like humanity. The real battle was just beginning. The war had been raging for 2 weeks, and humanity was learning to fight back. General Kevin Walsh stood in the command center deep beneath the Pentagon, watching displays that showed battles across the globe. Red dots marked alien positions. Blue dots showed human forces, and the map looked like a deadly game of chess played across an entire planet. "General, we're getting reports from all sectors," said Major Lisa Grant, his communications officer. "The frequency disruptors are working, but the aliens keep changing their weapon frequencies." "We're in a technology race?" Kevin nodded grimly. He had fought in 3 wars during his career, but nothing had prepared him for this. "What about the Chicago operation?" Sergeant Bradley's unit took out another alien patrol. "They're using the new Chaos Tactics manual that Captain Foster developed. Hit fast, hit hard, then disappear before the aliens can respond." In the ruins of downtown Chicago, Sergeant Tom Bradley crouched behind a burned-out car with his squad. Across the street, 5 alien robots moved in perfect formation, scanning for human resistance fighters. These robots were different from the first ones, bigger, more heavily armed, and smarter. "They're learning," whispered Private Danny Kim, the youngest member of Bradley's squad. "These new ones don't fall for the same tricks." Bradley smiled grimly. "Then we'll have to get more creative. Remember, they think like computers. We think like humans. That's our advantage." The squad split up, each soldier moving to a different position. Instead of attacking in a coordinated pattern like the aliens expected, they struck randomly. Private Kim threw a grenade from one direction while Corporal Jane Miller fired from another. Sergeant Bradley attacked from a third angle, using the new frequency disruptor to disable the robots' shields. The aliens tried to respond, but their computer minds couldn't process the chaos. They had protocols for organized attacks, but no programming for complete randomness. Within minutes, all 5 robots were scrap metal. Meanwhile, Colonel Steve Parker led a much larger mission. Intelligence had located a Zephyrian outpost in the mountains of Colorado, and Parker commanded 200 soldiers in an assault that would either give humanity crucial information or end in disaster. "Remember, we need prisoners," Parker told his officers as they prepared for the attack. "Dr. Cooper says we need to understand how their hive mind works if we're going to win this war." The assault began at dawn. Human forces surrounded the alien outpost, a crystalline structure that seemed to grow from the mountainside itself. The aliens inside responded with their usual precision, but something was different. Their movements seemed slower, more hesitant. Lieutenant Sarah Murphy led the first wave of attackers. She had been a police officer before the war, trained to think quickly and act decisively. As her team breached the outer defenses, she noticed something important. "Colonel, the aliens aren't coordinating like they used to. They're still dangerous, but they're not working together as smoothly." Parker realized what this meant. "They're getting confused by our chaos tactics. Keep hitting them from all directions. Don't let them establish a pattern." The battle lasted 6 hours, but when it ended, humans controlled the outpost. More importantly, they had captured 12 alien soldiers alive. These were the first Zephyrians that humans had seen face-to-face. Dr. Cooper arrived at the outpost that evening, eager to study the prisoners. What he found surprised him. The Zephyrians were tall, thin beings with pale blue skin and large black eyes. They moved with an eerie coordination, as if they were all parts of the same organism. "They're not individuals," Cooper realized as he watched them through the containment field. "They're connected somehow. Look at how they move together, how they react to each other's thoughts." Dr. Nina Roberts, a psychologist who had joined Cooper's team, studied the aliens' behavior. "It's like they share a single consciousness. That's why they're so coordinated, but also why they struggle with our unpredictable tactics." The breakthrough came when one of the captured aliens began to speak. Its voice was the same perfect, emotionless tone they had heard in the surrender demand. "You cannot win," the alien said. "We are the Zephyrian Collective. We are one mind. With many bodies, your chaos will be analyzed and countered." Dr. Roberts leaned forward. "But you're having trouble with our chaos, aren't you? Your computer minds work perfectly when everyone follows the rules, but humans don't follow rules in war." The alien's large eyes focused on her. "Your species is difficult to predict. This is why you must be eliminated. Order cannot exist with chaos." Back on Earth, Captain Lisa Hayes commanded the human fleet from the Bridge of the Unity. The space battles had been brutal, with human ships destroyed by the dozens. But slowly, human tactics were improving. "Captain, we're getting a message from Admiral Miller," reported Lieutenant Andy Clark. "He wants all ships to begin Operation Wildfire," Lisa smiled. Operation Wildfire was humanity's most desperate and brilliant strategy. Instead of fighting the aliens in organized formations, every human ship would attack independently, using completely random tactics. It would be chaos, but chaos was humanity's strength. "Send the signal to all ships," Lisa ordered. "Tell them to fight like humans, not like machines." The space battle that followed was unlike anything in military history. Human ships darted between alien formations, firing from impossible angles and retreating before the aliens could respond. Some ships rammed directly into alien vessels, their crews choosing death over surrender. Others used debris as cover, hiding among the wreckage of previous battles. The aliens tried to respond with their usual precision, but their computer minds couldn't track hundreds of ships all acting independently. For every human ship they destroyed, 3 more appeared from unexpected directions. Lieutenant Commander Jack Turner piloted a small fighter through the battle, his ship dancing between alien energy beams. His radio crackled with reports from other pilots. "This is Red 5. I'm attacking the alien cruiser from below. Blue Squadron, hit their engines while they're distracted. All units, the big crystal ship is turning toward Earth. We need to stop it." Turner saw the massive alien flagship, twice the size of any other ship, moving toward Earth's atmosphere. Its weapons could level entire cities. Without thinking, he pushed his fighter to maximum speed and dove toward the alien ship. "This is Lieutenant Commander Turner to all ships. I'm going to ram their flagship. Tell my wife I love her." But before Turner could complete his suicide run, something unexpected happened. The alien ship's weapons suddenly stopped firing. Its shields flickered and died. The massive vessel began to drift helplessly through space. What happened? Turner radioed to the Unity. Captain Hayes checked her instruments in amazement. Their ship just stopped working. All the alien ships are powering down. The answer came from the captured aliens in Colorado. Dr. Cooper had been studying them when they suddenly collapsed, their coordinated movements becoming random and confused. "The connection is broken," one of them said, its voice showing emotion. For the first time, the Prime Coordinator. Something has happened to the Prime Coordinator. Dr. Roberts realized what this meant. They're not just connected, they're controlled by a central mind. If something happened to their leader, their whole system would collapse. Reports came in from around the world. Alien ships were landing, their crews surrendering or simply sitting motionless. The robot soldiers stopped fighting and stood like statues. The war had suddenly, inexplicably ended, but humanity's victory came with a price. The Zephyrian Empire had controlled hundreds of worlds, and with their central command gone, those worlds were in chaos. Alien species that had been enslaved for centuries were now free, but they had no idea how to govern themselves. President Carter addressed the world again, this time with news of victory. "We have won, but our fight is not over. The galaxy is in chaos, and Earth must help restore order. We fought for our freedom, and now we must help others find theirs." Commander Jake Morrison watched the speech from Mars, where his team had spent the war-building defenses that were never needed. Now they had a new mission, helping to build a new galactic civilization. "Beth, send a message to Earth," Jake said. "Tell them Mars is ready to help. We're not just survivors anymore. We're the species that defeated the Zephyrians. The galaxy is going to need us." The war was over, but humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. The victory over the Zephyrians had been too easy, and Commander Jake Morrison knew it. 3 weeks after the alien ships had gone silent, disturbing reports began arriving from across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire hadn't just collapsed. It had shattered into 1,000 pieces, each one dangerous in its own way. "Commander, we're getting signals from 17 different star systems," reported Dr. Beth Collins from her station on Mars. "Some are asking for help, others are declaring war on each other, and a few are just screaming into space." Jake studied the data streaming in from deep space sensors. The Zephyrian Empire had controlled over 200 worlds, keeping dozens of alien species under tight control. Now, with their masters gone, chaos was spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. "Send a message to Earth," Jake ordered. "Tell them we need to do something about this. If we don't help stabilize the galaxy, we might face something worse than the Zephyrians." Back on Earth, President Helen Carter sat in the Oval Office with her top advisors. The celebration of humanity's victory had lasted exactly 3 days before the reality of their situation became clear. Earth wasn't just free, it was now the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Madam President, we're getting requests for help from 47 different worlds, reported Secretary of Defense William Nash. Some want protection from their neighbors, others want help rebuilding their governments, and a few are asking us to mediate territorial disputes. Admiral Frank Miller spread a holographic map across the table. The galaxy looked like a puzzle with half the pieces missing. The Zephyrian Empire kept the peace through fear and control. Without them, old enemies are settling old scores. We're seeing wars that have been frozen for centuries suddenly starting up again. Dr. Ryan Cooper, now serving as Earth's chief alien affairs advisor, pointed to several red zones on the map. The worst problems are in the core systems. 3. Different species are fighting over the old Zephyrian capital world. If any of them get control of the remaining Zephyrian technology, they could become the next Galactic Empire. President Carter felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. What are you recommending? We need to act fast, Admiral Miller said. Send a fleet to the core systems, establish order, and prevent any one species from gaining. Too much power. It's not what we wanted, but it's what the galaxy needs. The decision to intervene came when the Kaleri, a reptilian species that had been enslaved by the Zephyrians for 3 centuries, sent a desperate message to Earth. Their homeworld was under attack by their former prison guards, mechanical beings, called the Nexus, who had decided to create their own empire. Commander Morrison led the first human expedition to another star system. The ship Endeavour, hastily converted from a Mars supply vessel, carried 50 volunteers and enough firepower to level a small city. It was humanity's first step into the wider galaxy. Remember, we're not conquerors, Morrison told his crew as they approached the Kaleri homeworld. We're peacekeepers. Our job is to stop the fighting and help these people rebuild. The Kaleri homeworld was a beautiful blue-green planet covered in vast forests and crystal cities. But as the Endeavour entered orbit, Morrison could see the damage. Several cities were burning, and mechanical ships were bombarding the surface with surgical precision. Those are Nexus ships, reported Lieutenant Sam Carter, the ship's tactical officer. 12 destroyers and 3 command vessels. They're using modified Zephyrian weapons to attack civilian targets. Morrison made a decision that would echo across the galaxy. Target the Nexus ships? Show them what human weapons can do. The battle was over in minutes. The Nexus ships, designed to fight predictable enemies, couldn't handle the chaotic attack patterns that humans had perfected during the war. The Endeavour darted between the enemy vessels, firing from impossible angles and using the planet's gravity to slingshot around obstacles. When the last Nexus ship was destroyed, Morrison received a message from the planet's surface. The voice was different from the Zephyrians' perfect tones. It was emotional, grateful, and very much alive. Human ship, this is Elder Korvek of the Kaleri Council. We cannot thank you enough. We thought we were going to die. Morrison smiled. That's what neighbors are for, Elder Korvak. We're here to help. The rescue of the Kaleri homeworld was just the beginning. Within days, requests for help flooded in from across the galaxy. The Vorthak, a peaceful trading species, asked for protection from pirates. The Zelani, former scientists in the Zephyrian Empire, needed help rebuilding their research facilities. The Mekra, a warrior culture, wanted human military advisors to help them transition to peacetime. Captain Lisa Hayes found herself commanding not just human ships, but a growing fleet of alien vessels whose crews had volunteered to serve under human leadership. The Unity had become the flagship of what journalists were calling the Human Galactic Fleet. Captain, we're approaching the Zarian system, reported Lieutenant Andy Clark. Intelligence says there are 3 different factions fighting over the planet. The Zarians themselves are caught in the middle. Lisa studied the tactical display. The Zarian system was a mess. 2 alien species were fighting over mining rights while a third group, former Zephyrian administrators, was trying to establish a new government. The native Zarians were being ignored by all 3 groups. Standard peacekeeping protocol, Lisa ordered. Separate the combatants, protect the civilians, and then we'll sort out the politics. The human approach to peacekeeping was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Instead of imposing order through force, humans used negotiation, compromise, and creative problem solving. When the mining dispute couldn't be resolved, Major Chris Taylor suggested sharing the mines and the profits. When the former administrators claimed legal authority, Captain Amy Foster helped the Xerians write their own constitution. Dr. Nina Roberts, now serving as Earth's chief diplomatic advisor, found herself mediating disputes between species that had been enemies for millennia. Her background in psychology helped her understand the deep-seated fears and resentments that drove galactic conflicts. The problem isn't resources or territory, she explained to President Carter during a video conference. It's trust. These species have been under Zephyrian control for so long, they've forgotten how to work together. We need to teach them. The solution came from an unexpected source. Private Danny Kim, the young soldier who had fought in Chicago, proposed something radical during a planning session on the liberated world of Nexus Prime. What if we don't just stop the fighting, he suggested. What if we show them how to live? Together, set up joint colonies, mixed crews on ships, shared research projects. Make cooperation more profitable than conflict. The idea was so simple that it was brilliant. Within months, human-led joint ventures were spreading across the galaxy. Former enemies found themselves working side by side on projects that benefited everyone. Trade routes reopened, scientific research resumed, and slowly, the galaxy began to heal, but not everyone was happy with humanity's growing influence. Deep in the unexplored regions of space, the remains of the Zephyrian military had regrouped under a new leader. The Prime Coordinator was dead, but his lieutenant, the Strategic Coordinator, had survived the collapse of the hive mind. The humans think they have won, the Strategic Coordinator transmitted to his scattered forces. They think their chaos can overcome our order. They are wrong. We will rebuild. We will adapt, and we will reclaim what is ours. The message was intercepted by human intelligence, and Admiral Miller immediately called an emergency meeting. The holographic map of the galaxy showed red dots beginning to cluster in the outer rim, Zephyrian ships, moving toward human-protected worlds. They're coming back, Miller told the assembled leaders. Not as a hive mind, but as individual commanders, leading their own forces. In some ways, that makes them more dangerous. Commander Morrison, now promoted to Admiral and commanding the Mars Defense Fleet, studied the enemy positions. How long do we have? 6 months, maybe less. They're building new ships, recruiting survivors from conquered worlds, and they're angry. This won't be like the first war. This will be personal. President Carter made the announcement to the world and the galaxy. We defeated the Zephyrians once by being unpredictable. Now they're learning to be unpredictable too. But we have something. They'll never have allies, friends, people who fight beside us because they choose to, not because they have to. The second war was coming, and this time humanity wouldn't fight alone. The final battle began not with a grand invasion, but with a single message broadcast across the galaxy. The Strategic Coordinator's voice carried the same cold perfection as his dead master, but underneath it was something new: anger. People of the galaxy, you have been deceived by the humans. They promise freedom, but they bring only chaos. They destroyed our order and left you defenseless. We return to restore peace through strength. Surrender to us, and we will protect you from human madness. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Mars flagship Defiant, watching as red dots appeared on the tactical display. 50 Zephyrian ships had emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. These weren't the crystal ships from the First War. These were darker, more aggressive, built for destruction rather than conquest. Admiral, we're getting reports from across the galaxy, reported Captain Sam Carter. Zephyrian forces are attacking human peacekeeping missions on 17 worlds. They're not trying to recapture territory. They're trying to kill every human they can find. Morrison felt cold fear in his stomach. This wasn't about conquest anymore. This was about revenge. On the bridge of the Unity, Captain Lisa Hayes coordinated the defense of Earth alongside ships from dozens of allied species. The Kaleri had sent their entire fleet. The Vorthak provided their best pilots. Even former enemies like the Mekron had volunteered to fight beside humanity. "This is Elder Korvek of the Kaleri Defense Force," came a transmission from one of the alien ships. "Human friends, we stand with you. You saved our world. Now we help save yours." Similar messages came from ships throughout the fleet. The galaxy had chosen sides, and most of it stood with humanity. The Strategic Coordinator's fleet approached Earth with methodical precision, but something was different about their tactics. They no longer moved in perfect formation. Instead, they spread out, attacked from multiple directions, and used unpredictable patterns that mimicked human chaos tactics. "They learned from our first war," observed Dr. Ryan Cooper from the Military Command Center beneath Geneva. "They're not thinking like a hive mind anymore. Each ship commander is acting independently." President Helen Carter watched the battle unfold from the White House Situation Room. The stakes couldn't be higher. If Earth fell, the fragile Galactic Alliance would collapse, and the Zephyrians would reclaim their empire through terror and destruction. "What are our chances?" she asked Admiral Miller. "Better than last time," Miller replied. "We're not fighting alone anymore." The space battle raged for hours. Human ships darted between Zephyrian formations while alien allies provided covering fire. The Kaleri used their crystal weapons to disrupt enemy shields. The Mekron rammed their armored ships into Zephyrian destroyers. The Vorthak used their superior speed to outmaneuver enemy fighters, but the Zephyrians had learned too much. They countered human chaos with their own unpredictability. They adapted to alien tactics in real time. For every enemy ship destroyed, they seemed to become more dangerous. Lieutenant Commander Jack Turner led a squadron of mixed human and alien fighters against the Zephyrian flagship. The massive ship was twice the size of the old crystal vessels, bristling with weapons that could vaporize entire city blocks. "All ships, target the command vessel," Turner radioed. "If we can take out their leader, maybe the rest will stop coordinating." But as the fighters approached, the Zephyrian flagship did something unexpected. It split apart, revealing that it wasn't one ship but 12 smaller vessels disguised as a single target. The trap closed around Turner's squadron like the jaws of a predator. "It's a trick," Turner shouted into his radio. "They're not thinking like machines anymore. They're thinking like us." Half of Turner's squadron was destroyed in the first volley, but the survivors fought back with desperate courage. Turner's own fighter was damaged, his engines failing, but he refused to retreat. "This is for everyone who died in the first war," he whispered, and dove his crippled ship directly into the largest Zephyrian vessel. The explosion lit up space like a new star, and the Zephyrian formation wavered for the first time. On the ground, Private Danny Kim led a defense of the European Space Center as Zephyrian landing craft attacked key installations around the world. These weren't the methodical robots from the First War. These were living Zephyrian soldiers, fighting with the fury of a species that had lost everything. "They're different," Kim observed as he fired at advancing enemies. "They're not following patterns anymore. They're angry, and anger makes them unpredictable." The ground battle was brutal. Zephyrian soldiers fought with suicidal determination, using their reality-warping weapons to devastating effect. But human forces had allies now, and the mixed units of humans and aliens fought with a coordination that surprised even themselves. Dr. Nina Roberts, coordinating refugee evacuation from Geneva, watched as human children played alongside young Kaleri and Vorthak in the emergency shelters. Despite the war raging overhead, the next generation was already learning to live together. "Look at them," she said to Dr. Cooper as they watched the children. "They don't see aliens and humans, they just see friends. That's what we're really fighting for." The turning point came when engineer Maya Rodriguez, working in the deep bunkers beneath Colorado, made a desperate discovery. The Zephyrian ships were still using quantum field manipulation, but their new independence came at a cost. "They're not sharing information anymore," she reported to Admiral Morrison. "Each ship is operating alone, which means they're making the same mistakes over and over." "We can use that," Morrison understood immediately. "Send the new tactical data to all ships. Tell them to exploit Zephyrian isolation. Make them fight the same battle 12 different times. The strategy worked. Human and alien forces began targeting Zephyrian ships one at a time, forcing each enemy vessel to learn expensive lessons that they couldn't share with their allies. The Zephyrians' new independence, their attempt to copy human tactics, had become their weakness. The strategic coordinator, commanding the battle from his flagship, realized too late what was happening. In trying to become more human, his forces had lost their greatest advantage, perfect coordination. They were trapped between two weaknesses, the predictability of their old hive mind and the isolation of their new independence. All ships return to formation protocol, he ordered desperately. But it was too late. His commanders had tasted independence and couldn't return to being mindless drones. The battle ended when Captain Hayes led a final assault on the strategic coordinator's ship. The Zephyrian leader fought to the end, but he was one mind trying to control chaos while humanity commanded order through cooperation. As the last Zephyrian ship surrendered, silence fell across the galaxy. The war was truly over. President Carter addressed not just Earth, but all the worlds that had fought together. We didn't win this war through superior weapons or tactics. We won because we fought together, each species contributing their strengths while covering others' weaknesses. That's the future we're building, not a human empire, but a galactic community. Admiral Morrison stood on the observation deck of the Defiant, looking out at Earth surrounded by ships from a dozen worlds. Children born on these ships would grow up thinking of the galaxy as their home, not just their individual planets. Commander Morrison, now promoted to head of galactic relations, established the first permanent embassy on the liberated Zephyrian homeworld. Former slaves worked alongside their liberators to build something new, a government based on cooperation rather than domination. Dr. Roberts opened the first galactic university, where human and alien students learned together. The curriculum included subjects that had never existed before: xenopsychology, interspecies diplomacy, and cooperative quantum mechanics. The Zephyrian survivors, freed from their hive mind and learning to think as individuals, became some of humanity's most valuable allies. They understood the danger of absolute order and helped design safeguards against future tyrannies on Mars. Children who had been born during the war played in gardens that grew under alien stars. They spoke multiple languages, had friends from different worlds, and thought of the galaxy as a neighborhood rather than a battlefield. The human victory had become something greater than anyone imagined. It wasn't just Earth that had been saved, it was the entire galaxy. And the children playing under those alien stars would inherit a universe where cooperation was stronger than conquest, where diversity was valued over uniformity, and where the chaotic spark of human creativity had lit a fire that would burn across the stars for generations to come. The age of human dominance had ended before it began. The age of galactic cooperation had just started.